Alex Sayer here. You're watching the Shooting Channel News, and by now I hope you're sharing the Shooting Channel News. And I hope you all had a good week and that the grounds are beginning to open up around you and this is working well. We've got the new dates from the CPSA of the English Open, which is the English Open ABT, which is on the 8th and 9th of August, and we've got the English British Open All Round, which is on the 15th and 16th of August. This gives you plenty of time to practice. I would advise that you have a look at some of our videos. They give you little hints, tips and techniques on how to get better at shooting. If you saw the Down the Line video last week, David's got a young lad, Will, who's come through the school's challenge, talking about how he got into shooting and how easy it's been for him, just to give you a bit of inspiration, a bit of encouragement, because if you've never competed before, maybe now's the time to start thinking about it. This feature goes out every Thursday at 7:30, and you've got me here on Tuesday bringing you the news from the industry and letting you know what's going on in shooting and conservation, which, let's face it, go hand in hand. We mustn't forget that. If you'd like to read the latest publication on this, I'd recommend you have a look at the GWT, which covers mountain hare, black grouse, fish, the lot. And we've got good news that the government's consultation on alien invasive species and the management thereof chimes beautifully with Basque's advice on grey squirrels, muntjac deer and the Egyptian goose. Which brings us nicely to our guest this week, Mr. Tim Weston from the National Gamekeepers Organisation. He's coming on any minute to talk about individual licences, why licences should go back to central government and the problems gamekeepers are facing at the moment. I'll pass you over to Tim now.
With my role with the National Gamekeepers Organisation, with general licensing in last spring, in 2019, was affected, as everyone knows, by a challenge from Wild Justice, which caused chaos in the countryside and, in our opinion, a conservation crisis where keepers, land managers, conservation bodies were unable to control certain predator species to protect red and amber listed species in that countryside, which we've done for many, many years. As a result of that challenge, some of the rules were changed and Natural England were granted the licensing, and they decided that on European protected sites for this year, 2020, individual licenses would have to be granted for the control of certain predatory species such as crow, jackdaw, magpie, gull, rook, etc. on 2 different licenses. And land managers were to apply for an individual license if they were on a European protected site or SSI, etc. The NGO started lobbying about 9 or 10 months ago to tell Natural England the sheer scale of the applications they're going to receive, and that they may or may not have, well, probably not have the capacity to process these, and need to think very, very carefully about how they produce a streamlined, workable system that land managers and Natural England were able to process. That hasn't happened. So where we are today with the licensing is basically complete chaos. It's Natural England have presided over more destruction of Britain's rare wildlife than is necessary.
Yeah, purely down to them not granting the licences so individuals can do predator control.
Yeah, so there are 2 things. One is they didn't grant the licence quickly enough. The licences they have granted are basically unusable.
Because there's, of course, a short period of time for nesting birds and things like that. You know, you've got to get in there.
Yeah, exactly. There is that. There was the speed, but there's also the license is supposed to be individual licenses for the individual estate, because that's the way Natural England set them up. But they've sent out generic licenses. So a license in the middle of the North York Moors is talking about bullfinches and Brent geese, which don't exist there. I've got some personal experience. I lease a couple of shoots in Wiltshire, and one of them is a European protected site. The entire estate, 5,000 acres. It's one of the only low ground one. So we have to have a license to control crows and magpies, which I applied for at the end of February.
Yeah.
And we are now June the 9th. I still have not had my license. We don't have gulls, so I only apply for crows and magpies. They're the two species we need to control. We don't control the jays.
So yeah, so you've been very careful in what you have applied for. You've been very specific for the individual license.
Very specific, yeah. And we've applied to protection of game birds, goldfinches, with a lot of woodcock, nesting woodcock, resident woodcock, and tree creepers, a lot of other amber listed species. So we put an application in with the number of birds we wanted to kill, by looking at our historic record of what we've done in the past, all the right things. So for crows and magpies, so about 3 weeks ago, I had an email from Natural England saying your license application is not complete or correct. So you're going to have to start again. Here is how you apply for your gull license.
Ah.
So I wrote back and said, well, I didn't apply for a gull license. I applied for a crow and magpie license. That was 3 weeks ago. I still haven't heard a reply to my reply.
So what would be your ideal solution to this then? What?
Well, I mean, there is only one solution, and the general license has got to cover the European protected sites and all the other sites that it currently doesn't. It's absolutely ludicrous that the reason these sites on the main are areas of scientific interest or European protected areas is because of the rare species they have on them, such as redshank, curlew, stone curlew, plover. You know, I could go on, lapwing.
Yeah, and the numbers are declining rapidly.
They are, but interestingly, not necessarily on keeper estates, because it's the three-legged stool. You've got habitat, shelter, and predator control, and those are the three things on the three-legged stool. Then you take one of those away, the stool falls over. And Natural England have taken the key tool away from land managers and conservationists to be able to control these species. The NGO, like I said, have been battling this for 9 months, and it's taken an extraordinary amount of man hours. We've had to do freedom of information requests. We've had to write to the Minister for Agriculture several times. We've been very, very robust in our fighting of this for keepers and wildlife in general, to be honest. We've just found it that basically the licensing body are not fit for purpose. It's as simple as that. It needs to be taken back into central government where someone can actually make a decision and doesn't fliff and flaff about and make some really bizarre statements. With the gulls, for example, you can protect gulls in a seaside. You can control gulls in a seaside town because they might upset somebody who's sitting on a bench. But you can't protect gulls on a grouse moor where they're going to completely devastate the plover, curlew, and grouse populations. Which one's more important? The person eating their bag of chips doesn't get annoyed by the noise, or the fact that we're going to lose a vast number of red and amber listed species?
Thank you very much for that, Tim. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and I hope that this show can give a voice to the hard work that's being done for England's wildlife behind the scenes that never gets reported. So I ask you again, if you could please share, spread the word, and help to get these voices heard. Meanwhile, if you'd like to have a look at the paper that Tim and I were discussing in the video, I'll put a link in the description for you. That's all from me. I'll see you next Newsday. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.